Now, I've been asked to talk to you briefly this evening about U.S.-Sino relations, and I'll try to do that in 6 or 7 minutes. It's not easily done because that's a big topic. But China's historic transformation, as far as economic transformation is concerned, is well known here and indeed around the world. And almost daily, it seems, we hear some extraordinary statistic about Chinese economic growth or Chinese trade or Chinese investment. I happen to have been visiting China periodically for 34 years. That's a long time. And I never cease to be astonished by the speed and the scale of China's transformation. Today, China is not just an immensely richer country than when I first visited. It is a much more dynamic and a much more confident society. It is truly a great power, poised to take an increasingly important role on the world stage. But allow me to be blunt. Some in the United States, not a majority by any means, but certainly a vocal minority, see China's rise as a threat somehow to America's international status. They believe that conflict between our two countries is inevitable as Chinese ambitions clash with American position and power. Ladies and gentlemen, these observers are wrong. And they are not only wrong, they are dangerously wrong. And the reason is very simple. Their analyses grossly underestimate the broad areas where Chinese and American interests converge. One such area, of course, is fostering global economic growth and cooperating wherever possible to address the financial crisis that has swept the world. Not only are America and China respectively the world's two largest economies now, they happen to be major trading partners. As major beneficiaries of more open trade and investment, each of them possesses a vital interest in the health of the broader world economic system. These common interests are likely to expand and deepen with time as China's economy matures. Of course, the advantages to closer economic cooperation are twofold. Importantly and obviously, first, it promises a greater economic well-being for the citizens of both countries. And secondly, that economic cooperation tends to dampen any chances of conflict. Another obvious area of common interest for the two countries is energy. Like the United States, China has a huge stake in the unimpeded flow of petroleum to global markets at a reasonable price. It would benefit neither country, for example, were the current political unrest in the Middle East to jeopardize the production of oil there. Another threat to energy security is Iran's nuclear program, which could allow Tehran to blackmail its neighbors and set off a Middle Eastern nuclear arms race. Quite simply, China and America both have a direct interest in avoiding such outcomes. A third area of common interest is regional stability in Asia. And of course, of particular concern there is North Korea's nuclear program. During the past year, North Korea has taken brinksmanship too far through unwarranted military attacks on South Korea. Now, it seems perhaps, fortunately, cooler heads have prevailed. As we move forward, it will be important for China, as a participant in the six-party talks to resolve the crisis, to remain committed to a comprehensive regional approach to North Korea's nuclear program and to stability on the Korean Peninsula. The worst-case scenario for China would be if tensions were to escalate and hundreds of thousands of North Korean refugees were to spill across the border into China. And so there's opportunity for broader security cooperation now between Beijing and Washington and other Northeast Asian capitals. These challenges that I've just mentioned are just a few of the areas of common interest between the United States and China, but there are many others. Combating terrorism, protecting sea lanes, stemming the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction are a few of those that immediately come to mind. In order to effectively tackle any of them, China and the United States are first going to have to manage their differences. And those differences exist, as they do between all countries and particularly all great powers. And those differences, ladies and gentlemen, are not going to go away. Over time, in fact, larger differences may indeed emerge. One potential flashpoint, Taiwan, remains an area of perennial concern. So does trade policy, as witnessed the furor here in this country over our trade deficit with China. Human rights, Tibet, and proliferation are also areas of difference. Our task is to ensure that these differences do not escalate. At times of tension, we need to restrain the rhetoric on both sides of the Pacific, and we need to keep lines of communication open. We need to find compromises that allow us to meet halfway, and sometimes we must simply agree to disagree. The future is rich enough with opportunities to give both of our countries full rein for our ambitions and for our dreams. But if we slip into confrontation or conflict, then both sides will suffer. And make no mistake about it, my friends, the world will suffer with us. One Cold War ended almost 20 years ago. We neither want nor need another one. I happen to be personally optimistic about our ability to avoid a tragic outcome if we focus on the opportunities that the two countries have for cooperation. But even more important, perhaps, is the increasingly powerful network of interpersonal relationships that bind the two countries together. Enhancing those interpersonal relationships is, of course, an aspiration of the Asia Society. Whether we're talking about business partnerships, cultural exchanges, academic collaboration, or even tourism, ever more Asians and Americans are learning about each other in direct and human ways, and that is a very worthy goal. It happens also to be an extremely important goal, one that can bring understanding and stability to a troubled world. Thank you all for this honor tonight. Thank you and good night.